How's it going, everyone? So today I picked up 4,000 mealworms from rainbowmealworms.com. I get 4,000 every 2 to 3 months, depending on how fast the chickens eat them. And I think they come 4,000 for like 48 bucks, plus of course their shipping. But I have not been able to find that price for mealworms anywhere else. This seems to be the best price, best quantity. They're always alive. I've never had any issues with them. I actually do superworms rather than mealworms, because superworms actually don't require being kept in the refrigerator at all, which is nice because my wife's not a huge fan of opening the fridge and seeing a whole pile of mealworms. So superworms you actually do not keep in the fridge. They don't go into hibernation, unlike mealworms that do go into hibernation when you keep them in the fridge. That's how you keep them longer. Superworms need to be kept at room temperature, and then you're able to actually keep them and feed them live, and they're wiggling around. The chickens love them. So I'm going to show you how I got them, how I keep them, and how much chickens enjoy them. So take a look. So this is how they come in the package. So open it up. So there'll be two of these. There's one on the lower level. They come wrapped with newspaper in there. So how I have them set up is I actually have them in my shed, my lovely outdoor shed. And what I do is I keep them in a big Rubbermaid plastic container. The shed doesn't get too hot. Right now it's only June, so it's not too bad. As it starts heating up, it will get a little hotter, so usually I'll either kick the door open, or sometimes I've moved them in the garage where I can keep the door open a little bit. So you just gotta pay attention. Too cold is not as big of a deal. Too hot, I've seen a lot of them die when I've had them in August. We've ended up with a ton of dead ones, which is not great. Chickens will still eat them, but once they start getting black, I usually just toss them at that point and throw them in the compost pile. It's just not worth feeding them. So a lot of people keep their mealworms or their superworms in wheat bran or wheat germ or whatever it is. That's kind of more of a powder. First of all, it's really expensive to try to get a ton of it. Second of all, I find it goes everywhere. Like no matter what you do, you can't reuse it. Like there poops in it. It's a pain. I'm not a huge fan. So what I do is I actually get barley. So I get whole barley. I get it from the same feed store I get all my chicken food from, and then I use this a couple of times. So I put this in. I think this will be the second batch of superworms that were actually in this. So I kind of keep a look at it. You'll see it. It'll start breaking down a little bit. You'll find little poops in there from the superworms, but for the most part, it stays whole, right? And I can actually kind of move around in there, and I can find the worm, pull it out, feed the chickens, and it's a lot easier than having to sift through kind of a powder, which is what the wheat bran is. So, and then once I'm done, usually it's about 3 or 4 runs of 4,000 mealworms through this. There'll be enough of it broken down where I don't want to use it again, and then I will actually take this, and I haven't done it yet, I've stored it, but I'm going to actually do fodder. So I'll actually put this in water, soak it, and then actually grow barley, and then I'll use that fodder to actually feed the chickens and feed the rabbit, and they'll enjoy it. So kind of use everything from a holistic point of view and be able to use everything, whereas like the wheat bran you're pretty much just throwing into a compost because there's really nothing else to do with it. So the way that I keep these mealworms or superworms, pretty much take them, I throw them in here, open this guy up, and then I dump them in. So, try to get everyone out of this little net that they package them in. I think I got everyone. So, you can see, they just come all piled in there. So, the difference with superworms is superworms can actually bite. That's the difference between mealworms and superworms. I have never been bitten by one. I've played with these guys plenty of times, but I guess they can actually bite. But, I mean, if you're not holding them for a set amount of time, you'll be fine. So, what I do is they like to go, obviously you can see them starting to bury their way down into the barley. But what I'll do is I'll actually leave this newspaper in here, because I find it actually makes it a lot easier to find them. Piece of plastic. It makes it a lot easier to find because they'll actually all kind of gather up in the paper. You can see how they like to kind of climb up inside of it. So I'll lay this out. A lot of times I'll take a brown paper bag and put a brown paper bag over them as well. They'll crawl kind of up in here, and then they'll just be underneath the actual bag. So it makes it a lot easier to get them out and to find them. And then as far as feeding goes, to be honest, I don't do a whole lot. So they will actually go through and they will eat the barley, right? So that's kind of their main food source. The only thing they need is a liquid source. Not true liquid, but more of some kind of moisture, right? So I'll do either carrots or potato, sweet potato. Every once in a while, I'll throw a head of lettuce in there. The one thing you do have to be careful of, though, is barley is known for getting mold really quickly. So whatever you do put in here, either put it on top. Sometimes I'll throw a head of lettuce on top of, either on top of the newspaper or on top of a paper bag, so that I can watch to make sure that it's not breaking down and causing mold or moisture in the barley. Potato, you don't really have that issue. They'll go through and just kind of hollow it out, just cut it in half, throw in there. Carrots, same thing. Carrots just dry up and it's not a problem. This last batch of 4,000 mealworms, I think I maybe put in a half a head of lettuce one time over the last 2 months, and I didn't have any losses. So I don't know if it was just these were well-fed worms or what, but I didn't really feed them at all other than the barley that they ate, and I didn't have any issues. So it can be done with very little food. You can also feed them as much as you want. They're worms. If you can keep chickens, you can keep worms. So I'll use, like, mealworm day, I usually like to grab them. Go over to our friends here. Here, guys. Oh, yeah, there you go. Everyone loves mealworm day. Always the best day. So that's it. So that's how I keep them. Just keep them in the shed. Keep inside a Rubbermaid container. I don't usually do a lid. I've done a lid before. There's a lid back there. Every once in a while I'll put it on. I drill holes through it, but I find that if you just keep the paper and everything down, keep it well below the lid, you can see I have, I don't know, 3-4 inches of barley that's in here. So I don't fill it to the top so they don't crawl out. I have not had an issue with escaping. So as long as you just keep the paper down, there's no way for them to climb out. It's a smooth surface. They won't climb up that. They would rather bury down inside the barley. That's it. So feed them. Make sure they have some food, some kind of food source. Make sure you put some kind of moisture source in there at some point. And enjoy. 4,000 will keep my 12 chickens happy for a couple of months. Or a month, depending on how many handfuls of mealworms they give them a day. But yeah, it'll last a while. So rainbowmealworms.com, that's where I would go. Best source that I've found. And enjoy.